Hello, everyone. Um, Good to see you again. This is Rexsy, and I was just having dinner and finished, and then I came up with some idea flashed through my head that the relationship between meditation, peaceful mind, enlightenment, with respect to the three roots of evil, or the three evil roots, or another name is three poisons, that is greed, hatred, and ignorance. um, on the surface, the three poisons seem pretty clear to understand, and how they relate to human actions. But as you dive deeper into the superficial layer, you can see the penetration of the interrelationships between the three poisons and a peaceful state of being, wisdom, of enlightenment, meditation of the universal consciousness. If one really lives peacefully without the three poisons, I mean, in a sense, and naturally, not because we're trying to suppress it, so we can show that, yeah, we are a good wisdom seeker, but rather by understanding the wisdom of the world, wisdom of the universe, deep inside our hearts, at the God nature, Buddha nature, or Christ nature of our whole being, then those three poisons would be out of our existence without trying to suppress them or try to get rid of them. They can be there if they want to, but they would not have any impact, any effects on us, on our minds and actions. For our actions would be guided by the universal wisdom. So if we observe the wisdom seekers, the so-called religious people, the monks or the priests or the pastors or the gurus, which they claim that they know the deep wisdom. So just follow them and they will teach you. They will advise you to better your life and turn you into a supreme religious person. Or if you observe a wisdom seeker, maybe on the outlooks he would look very simplistic. Just some tattered robe to cover his body, and maybe walk barefoot into the woods or into the village and discuss religion with the lay people. But by not gaining the materialistic world, or being poor, or live a life of minimalism, that may not be related to the roots of evil, the three poisons, at all. As you observe, you can see most of those people, they're so-called gurus, they can appear very simplistic, having a very simple life to most people, to their followers. But let's say that, they do want people to follow them. They want to lift up their ego, that I, the guru that knows it all, I've seen God, I've seen the real thing, so you should follow me. But let's question this. If one appears to be very simplistic, could appear to be a beggar, don't have anything to rely on, no money, nothing in his ownership, but inside he would have such a big ego. So one of the things very highly about oneself with a big ego, that's a very dangerous poison. Okay. That belongs to the world of I, me, mine. Although externally they possess nothing, but internally, deep down inside, they possess the big I, the big self. And that possession of the self that would love for people to respect and look highly of him, since he looks just like a beggar on the outside. So that's the very root of ignorance. The enlightened person has no self. He or she would be selfless. Sometimes they appear in the world, help people with wisdom, with their action, and then they would leave and disappear without a trace. So that's truly an enlightened being who does not need to be a guru to anyone or teacher to anyone. Because when one gets involved in being a teacher and being a guru, one would like to have the followers, people to get together, congregation, organization, and then build a church, a mosque, a temple, and would like to stuff people in there. So when there's an organization of anything in life, then there's conflict. Because of the fragmentary events, persons, the dynamics of interactions, thus conflicts. And when there's conflicts, then of course there's politics, and the rest of it will be involved. So one would go into the vicious circle, round and around, and deal with all those. In a time evolutionary process, not timeless. So you see all these things. The evolutionary dynamics of interactions, of organization, of getting people and things and events together. All these things are the works of the three evil roots, namely greed, hatred, and ignorance. So now we can see the three poisons creeping their way into the church, into the temple. Into the togetherness of people, hand in hand, side by side. They might chant, might think, might say lovely words to one another, but they live in a big confusion. And if anything could spark their ignorance, then they're willing to kill each other in the name of God. So you see, by seeing a person who has very simple life, and pray and study scripture and talk about wisdom all the time, that doesn't have much connection to being enlightened. For if they not really truly understand the reality of the universal wisdom, then they live with the three poisons just like anybody else. But oftentimes, perhaps maybe 90 or more, 99% of us, when we look at those people, we often mistake them for being a very religious person and very, very highly wisdom guru. And then some of us would be willing to sacrifice our lifestyle, our possessions, our being, just to follow and serve such guru. Now, if we look at the life of one of the greatest scientists of all time, Albert Einstein, he's a very simple man, the top scientist of all time, even until now, and he has a very simple life. He say that if I have a table, piece of paper and a pencil, so I can work on my theories on physics, and a bed to rest, and a violin so I can play some music. That's more than enough that I could ask for. Not only being simplistic, but he has such a great treasure of knowledge in the physical dynamics, of the universe, of time and space. And he had such a great fame in the top scientists of his time, and yet appear very simplistic, very simple. And from his writing, not only in physics, but he talks about philosophy, about religion, about arts and sciences, about Buddhism, and so on. So by observing his words, one can sense and see very clearly of his meditative mind, although he hardly used the word meditation. But his action, his way of life, his background, all those constitute to his being a very religious person, without claiming to be religious, really. So, in reality, he's a real scientist, he's a real guru, but never claimed to be a guru for anyone. One other person like Krishnamurti, he was becoming a head of a religion in England. But when the time came close, he disbanded the whole religion, and saying that there's no path to enlightenment. And by getting together and organize people, temples and churches, that's not the way. So he left and be on his own. And give out many lectures about philosophy, religion, meditation, and so on. Lao Tzu was around the time of the Buddha. Same thing. Always mentioned just do good things for humanity, and then just leave without a trace. So all these people, the Buddha, Christ, Einstein, Krishnamurti, even the Greek philosophers like Aristotle, Plato, they all stated in parallel that when one is alone, one is the strongest, the most intelligent being. So we look at the work and the philosophy and the wisdom of the enlightened ones of the past, we can see the opposite direction of today's teachers, religious teachers, the gurus, the monks, the priests, and so on. They go the opposite direction. They're afraid to be alone. They always want to have the big crowd being around them and serve them, actually, rather than the opposite. So now it has become a showbiz, for those folks, the so-called gurus. So they live in the material world. They had their desire. They have their wants, what to have and what not to have, and so on and so forth. So they're involved in time, in becoming, in possession. Some of them not wanting to possess anything in the material world, but they want to possess the high self, so people could look up to them as the greatest guru of all time. Anyway, just a few things to share with you on my latest thoughts, so that to help you to observe and figure out, the so-called religious person that you might interact with. There's a quote from Krishnamurti, very interesting quote. To meditate is to be innocent of time. We live in the world of time. Everything is a function of time. Our thought is time. And basically, time is the root of evolution, of becoming, of sorrows, sufferings. We take action from our limited thoughts of anger, of greed, of ignorance, of hatred, and commit our actions and create further conflicts and sufferings for ourselves and others. And that's the machinery of time, of thoughts. And if you look at the three poisons, greed, hatred, and ignorance, those roots are function of time. A greed person, for example, would want to become rich and richer, or richest in the world. So they long to become, to get to their destination of being richer, being the richest. So they're in slavery of time. Same thing with hatred. You hate someone yesterday, today you hate him or her even more, and you project into the future. I shall not have a relationship or have anything to do with such a person, as long as I live, for example. And ignorance, the same thing. If one remains in ignorance, one could be ignorant, in the past, and not gaining much wisdom, one would continue to be ignorant in the present time, and shall continue forever into the future. So you see, those elements are very much functioning in time. With all those evil roots subside together with our thoughts, then we would be in the timeless state. And essentially, that's meditation. That's why Krishnamurti said something very short, very simple. To meditate is to be innocent of time. me check out, see if there's anything short. I love anything short, so I don't have to spend time reading a lot. This one is from the Bodhidharma. Whoever knows that the mind is a fiction and devoid of anything real knows that his own mind neither exists nor doesn't exist. So an enlightening mind, does it really exist? Or not exist at all? If the mind exists, then whose mind is that? There will be the self attached to such mind. So with the self, existence of the self attached to the mind, then that's really not enlightenment. What if the mind, such enlightening mind, doesn't exist? If the enlightening mind doesn't exist, then there's nothing to talk about. Then all the enlightened beings of the past, like the Buddha, Christ, Lao Tzu, Kuan Tzu, and so many others, then they don't really exist. Which is a contradiction, because we know that they exist. And that's why the Buddha Dharma said that such mind neither exists or doesn't exist. Okay, so words can become very important, because if we attach to some words, then we really lose the meanings of reality. And that's why Bodhidharma is using such language. Neither exists nor doesn't exist. Okay, so overall, just a little discussion, communion with you all. What came through my mind this evening, and I hope that it's would enlighten your wisdom understanding. So I wish you have a beautiful day or an evening, depending on where you are, and enjoy the greatest peace, love, and beauty in daily living. So, bye-bye now.